Welcome back to Making the Madness on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe to Making the Madness on YouTube before you watch the rest of the video or during the video or after the video. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. But today we had number 3 against number 1 in the AP poll rankings. And it was an impressive performance. I come away with this game kind of thinking the same thing about both teams, but impressive performance from Gonzaga, an impressive performance from Jalen Suggs, and overall just a really fun basketball game that I think was just a joy to watch because with COVID-19, we haven't had this type of game in the past, but it was just great to have this.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. It's, as advertised, number 1 against number 3. I don't think either of us actually believed that Iowa was the best team in the Big Ten, but they played pretty well today. They gave up 99 points, which was, we knew their defense wasn't going to be their strong suit. We knew their defense wasn't going to be good. How Iowa wins games is by outscoring teams, and Gonzaga is just a terrible matchup for them because Gonzaga can outscore everybody and they can defend. You saw a lot of issues, though, with Iowa. They cannot defend the pick and roll at all. Luka Garza is just not quick enough. He gets caught way too much. And then Gonzaga was able to use their athleticism and speed to get to the basket a lot in this game. But then you saw some, shooting wasn't there for Gonzaga the first 3 games of the year. They were shooting 29% as a team. And today they hit 13 out of 26. Jalen Suggs did 7 threes. Corey Kispert with 3. Aaron Cook off the bench with 2. This is a super deep Gonzaga team. They don't need one guy to be their star every game. One game it can be Timmy, one game it can be Kispert, one game it can be Suggs, one game it can be Ayayi. But they're going to play together and they're going to win a lot of basketball games.
Yeah, I think that's a good takeaway from the game. And overall, you mentioned the 29% number. Coming into the year, I was you look at the team on paper, Nembhard should be about 35%. Suggs should be about 35%. Ayayi should be about 35% shooter. Kispert's a career 43% shooter. The shooting has been at 29% has been not great, but they can knock down shots. It was just a matter of time before they caught this type of game where they just went off and made everything. And this was the game where they did that. And credit to them, they played really well. Jalen Suggs had a huge game. That's something that's really important. He went 7 of 10 from 3, 27 points in this one was just absolutely huge. Really, I think the thing about him is he's just more athletic than anyone else on the court, which was really important. So great game from Jalen Suggs, and overall just a really good game from Gonzaga.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing to me now, you look at the rest of Gonzaga's schedule, the rest of their non-conference slate is Northwestern State on Monday. Then the day after Christmas, the 26th, they play Virginia. Then they play Dixie State to round out non-conference play. Before getting into conference play, I mean, they're going to go undefeated, right?
Yeah, in the regular season.
Yeah. I mean, I've been a big Jonathon can vouch for this. The YouTube listeners, if you haven't checked out the Making the Madness podcast, do that. Make sure you follow both of us on Twitter at Sean02MTM for me and at Bracketologist3 on Twitter for Jonathon. We both tweet a lot of college hoops, but I've been saying for months that I think Gonzaga is going to be an undefeated national champion, and they're looking every part of it.
Yeah, and kind of the advantage they have is so they won't play Baylor. At least it's not on the schedule. If they don't play Baylor,
doesn't sound like it'll be rescheduled.
Yeah, which at the moment doesn't sound like it'll be rescheduled. They're not going to play Baylor. Well, then their best game on the schedule left is Virginia. Virginia is not, a team I think is all that good. So, really, you're looking at the schedule, and it's just you look at everything. I just don't see a loss coming until maybe the NCAA tournament, if even then, because they're just better than everyone. left on the schedule, and it's not really particularly close. They're leaps and bounds and miles ahead of everyone else that they'll play.
Yeah, definitely. I even think they're leaps and bounds better than Baylor, who's the clear number 2 in the country. But there's a couple teams that can make Virginia play out of their element. They've already played one. It was West Virginia. They won. Ended up winning pretty handily, I think by 6 or 7, even though they were down for most of the game. But the two other teams are Villanova, just because of the way they like to play. They like to shoot a lot of threes, space the floor, and they play elite defense, hard-nosed basketball. They'll fight for everything. I still think Gonzaga is significantly better, but that could be a tough game. And then you look at Virginia is the other one, I think, because they can make anybody play out of their element. The thing about Virginia is just they can't hit shots consistently. If Jay Huff and Sam Hauser, Kihei Clark are hitting their shots, they can beat anybody, but they have to make Gonzaga play out of their element like they do with most teams. They have to slow the game down. If Gonzaga is playing as the top tempo team like they have been, Virginia is not going to win that game, and Gonzaga is going to run away with it because Virginia cannot outscore you.
Yeah, that's Virginia's. That I don't even think they play Virginia
the 26th.
A couple weeks, or I think a week from now.
Yeah, a week from today.
Yeah. I don't think that game will be particularly close. Like, I think Gonzaga wins by 15, in which case they'll enter the NCAA tournament undefeated. Now, we've seen 2015 Kentucky enter the NCAA tournament undefeated. Things happen. They lost to Wisconsin. No undefeated season for them. Same thing can happen to Gonzaga. Yeah, Wichita State entered. Anything can happen in the NCAA tournament. Right now, it's Gonzaga or the field. It really is. Now, Baylor's a good team. There probably is going to be other teams that come up and are really good come later in the season. But right now, at this moment, Gonzaga is the best team in the country. I don't really think there's an argument against that. And there's the rest of their schedule doesn't really set up to give them much challenge. Now, maybe in the NCAA tournament, they'll get a tough matchup and lose. Anything can happen in the NCAA tournament, but right now, they're going to enter the NCAA tournament undefeated. I feel fairly confident in that.
Yeah, and the only team in conference play I think can really give them a shot to beat them is San Francisco, not because I think they're better. They're clearly not. But Todd Golden, I know we're big Todd Golden guys, but in all seriousness, he was able to put Gonzaga in the danger zone twice last season, and they were able to win late, but they were up by double digits at home against Gonzaga, on the road against Gonzaga, and at home they only won by 3, I believe, or lost by 3 against Gonzaga. So if any team in the WCC can beat Gonzaga, it's San Francisco.
Yeah, I think San Francisco, maybe BYU, but they're not playing in front of crowd. I don't think it's any team, even San Francisco, is going to compete with them.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be a bloodbath in the WCC this season, especially when it's a down season for the conference. When you look at it, they're likely a one-bid league.
Yeah, and that bid will be going to Gonzaga. As for Iowa, I was fairly impressed with Iowa. They played pretty well, I thought. Luka Garza had 30 points. I was really impressed with Jack Nunge. Now, they didn't hit their shots. If they maybe would have had the type of shooting game that they had against North Carolina, maybe they come out winning. But Gonzaga, I think defensively was like, we'll give you Garza. He'll go out and do everything. We'll try to stop him as best we can, but we're not going to let Jordan Bohanna and Joe Wieskamp and that crew beat us from beyond the arc. So they kind of defended that way, which I think worked out in Gonzaga's favor because obviously they're sitting here with an 11-point win, so it worked out for them. Garza was impressive. I think he really, previously to this game, was the National Player of the Year favorite. I think he extends the lead in the National Player of the Year race. I don't really think there's a close second at this point. Garza he demands so much pressure defensively. He's so efficient offensively. He goes 13 for 18 from the field, and 2 of those misses were in the last 10 seconds chuck up threes like that. So you take out those 2 meaningless shots, that's 13 for 16, 30 points, 10 rebounds. Like, Garza played like the National Player of the Year. even in a loss. That's kind of one of the takeaways I have.
Yeah, Garza is tremendous. He struggled holding the ball a lot in the second half. He turned it over on like 2 or 3 straight possessions just from not being able to get rid of the ball. They were starting to double in with Watson and Timmy. Obviously, Timmy's not a very good defender, so that was kind of easy. They had Watson on him at times too, a more athletic guy to kind of try to get him out of sorts. But the thing with Iowa is they are what we thought they were. They are an elite offensive team, but they're just not going to be good on defense. They are now 80th in defensive efficiency on KenPom. And I know the North Carolina game, they looked really good shooting-wise, but they are still a great shooting team. I just think it's a bit of an anomaly that game because Jordan Bohannon, besides that game, has been a complete disaster this season.
Yeah, he's not been great. Wieskamp was big. I was impressed with Jack Nunge. He came in kind of when Iowa was making their push to go from down 20 to down like 8 or whatever they end up cutting it to. I thought he played really good in that minutes. He was just like bringing toughness, getting rebounds, like all that type stuff, which I thought was helpful for Iowa. Overall, I would come away with this game saying, okay, well, we know who they are, we know what they are, but they're a good basketball team. And I thought coming and showing that fight in the second half was at least something to hang the hat on, even if you don't get the victory if you're the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Yeah, definitely. I was impressed by how hard they fought. It would have been easy to lay down and die down 20, and they were able to cut it down to 7 at one point, I believe, and end up losing by 9. Iowa, the best conference in basketball, I think undoubtedly is probably the Big Ten. Just from a top to bottom standpoint, there's no terrible teams in the conference. Nebraska and Northwestern are bad, but I wouldn't consider them terrible. And you look at the Big Ten, Iowa's really good, but I think how I would rank it by what I think the end of the season will be would be Illinois, Rutgers, Wisconsin, Michigan State, and Iowa as my top 5.
Yeah, I'd say that would be the top 5. Rutgers, Illinois, Michigan State, Iowa, Wisconsin. I think it's pretty clear top 5. I'd say tier 1 if you're booking it into tiers. I think you can make an argument for any of those teams maybe winning the conference this year. Now, obviously, scheduling has a factor in that, but like Iowa's really good. Iowa's a good basketball team. I think the Big Ten is still maybe the deepest league in college basketball, if not the second deepest. I think it's Big Ten, Big 12 are the 2 best conferences at this point. But overall, I was impressed with Iowa. They played a pretty good game. Yeah, they lose, but everyone's losing to Gonzaga this year. So it's not really something you're not going to say selection committee comes in, oh, bad loss to Gonzaga. No, you're losing to the best team in the sport.
Yeah, definitely. Iowa's a team that, like we've been saying, could be a Final Four contender possibly, or they could lose in the first or second round just because the way their defense plays, they're one game away from their offense. If their offense is bad in the game, they probably won't win. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and they can't afford like against Gonzaga. Maybe you can afford this like against North Carolina or someone like that. Against Gonzaga, you just can't. They won that 4-minute stretch where they scored 1 field goal. You can't do that and expect to win.
Yeah, not at all. You have to keep scoring if you are the Iowa Hawkeyes. Your defense is not going to save you.
Yeah, they had 88 points and still lost by 11.
Which is their least by 3 possessions this year. Their least before this is 93.
Yeah, but overall, I think they take away from the main takeaway. Gonzaga's still the team to beat in the sport. Iowa, I think, played well. Just at the end of the day, Gonzaga's a better team, and I think that proved itself pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that will wrap it up for this edition of Making Madness on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done that, and we'll be back with some more videos.